Okonkwo was beginning to feel like his old self again. All that he required was something to occupy his mind. If he had killed Ikemefuna during the busy planting season or harvesting, it would not have been so bad. His mind would have been centered on his work. But Okonkwo was not a man of thought, but of action. But in absence of work, talking was the next best. Soon after Ofoedu left, Okonkwo took up his goatskin bag to go. I must go home and tap my palm trees for the afternoon, he said. Who taps your tall trees for you? Asked Obirika. Umezulike, replied Okonkwo. Sometimes I wish I had not taken the Ozo title, said Obirika. It wounds my heart to see these young men killing palm trees in the name of tapping. It is so indeed, Okonkwo agreed, but the law of the land must be obeyed. I don't know how we got that law, said Obirika. In many other clans, a man of title is not forbidden to climb the palm tree. Here we say he cannot climb the tall tree, but he can tap the short one standing on the ground. It is like Dimaragana, who would not lend his knife for cutting up dog meat because the dog was taboo to him, but offered to use his teeth. I think it is good that our clan holds the Ozo title in high esteem, said Okonkwo. In other clans, you speak of Ozo is so low that even beggar takes it. I was only speaking in jest, said Obirika. In Abame and Aninta, the title is worth less than 2 cowries. Every man wears the thread of title on his ankle and does not lose it even if he steals. They have indeed soiled the name of Ozo, said Okonkwo as he rose to go. It will not be very long now before my in-laws come, said Obirika. I shall return very soon, said Okonkwo, looking at the position of the sun. There were 7 men in Obirika's hut when Okonkwo returned. The suitor was a young man of about 25, and with him were his father and uncle. On Obirika's side were his 2 elder brothers and Maduka, his 16-year-old son. Ask Akueke's mother to send us some kola nuts, asked Obirika to his son. Maduka vanished into the compound like lightning. The conversation at once centered on him, and everyone agreed that he was sharp as a razor. I sometimes think he is too sharp, said Obirika somewhat indulgently. He hardly ever walks. He is always in a hurry. If you are sending him on an errand, he flies away before he has heard half the message. You are very much like that yourself, said his eldest brother. As our people say, when mother cow is chewing grass, its young ones watch its mouth. Maduka has been watching your mouth. As he was speaking, the boy returned, followed by Akueke, his half-sister, carrying a wooden dish with 3 kola nuts and an alligator pepper. She gave the dish to her father's eldest brother, then shook hands very shyly with her suitors and his relatives. She was about 16 and just ripe for marriage. Her suitor and his relatives surveyed her young body with expert eyes, as if to assure themselves that she was beautiful and ripe. She wore a coiffure which was done up into a crest in the middle of the head. Camwood was rubbed lightly onto her skin, and all over her body were black patterns drawn with uli. She wore a black necklace which hung down in 3 coils just above her full, succulent breasts. On her arms were red and yellow bangles, and on her waist 4 or 5 rows of jigida, or waist beads. When she had shaken hands, or rather held out her hand to be shaken, she returned to her mother's hut to help with the cooking. Remove your jigida first, her mother warned as she moved near the fireplace to bring the pestle resting against the wall. Every day I tell you that jigida and fire are not friends, but you will never hear. You grew your ears for decoration, not for hearing. One of these days, your jigida will catch fire on your waist, and then you will know. Akueke moved to the other end of the hut and began to remove the waist beads. It had to be done slowly and carefully, taking each string separately, else it would break and the 1,000 tiny rings would have to be strung together again. She rubbed each string downwards with her palms until it passed the buttocks and slipped down to the floor around her feet. The men in the obi had already begun to drink the palm wine which Akueke's suitor had brought. It was a very good wine and powerful, for in spite of the palm fruit hung across the mouth of the pot to restrain the lively liquor, white foam rose and spilled over. That wine is the work of a good tapper, said Okonkwo. The young suitor, whose name was Ibe, smiled broadly and said to his father, Do you hear that? Then he said to the others, He will never admit that I'm a good tapper. He tapped 3 of my best palm trees to death, said his father, Ukegbu. That was about 5 years ago, said Ibe, who had begun to pour out the wine, before I learned how to tap. He filled the first horn and gave to his father, then poured out for the others. Okonkwo brought out his big horn from the goatskin bag, blew into it to remove any dust that might be there, and gave it to Ibe to fill. As the men drank, they talked about everything except the thing for which they had gathered. It was only after the pot had been emptied that the suitor's father cleared his voice and announced the object of their visit. Obiorika then presented to him a small bundle of short broomsticks. Ukegbu counted them. Are they 30? He asked. Obiorika nodded in agreement. We are at last getting somewhere, Ukegbu said, and then turning to his brother and his son, he said, let us go out and whisper together. The three rose and went outside. When they returned, Ukegbu handed the bundle of sticks back to Obiorika. He counted them. Instead of 30, there were now 15. He passed them over to his eldest brother Maki, who also counted them and said, we had not thought to go below 30, but as the dog said, if I fall down for you and you fall down for me, it is play. Marriage should be play and not a fight, so we are falling down again. And then added 10 sticks to the 15 and gave the bundle to Ekegbu. In this way, Akueke's bride price was finally settled at 20 bags of cowries. It was already dusk when the two parties came to this agreement. Go on and tell Akueke's mother that we have finished, Obiorika said to his son Maduka. Almost immediately, the woman came in with a big bowl of fufu. Obiorika's second wife followed with a pot of soup, and Maduka brought in a pot of palm wine. As the men ate and drank palm wine, they talked about the customs of their neighbors. It was only this morning, said Obiorika, that Okonkwo and I were talking about Abame and Aninta, where titled men climb trees and pound fufu for their wives. All their customs are upside down. They do not decide bride prices we do with sticks. They haggle and bargain as if they were buying a goat or a cow in the market. That is very bad, said Obiorika's eldest brother. But what is good in one place is bad in another place. In Umunso, they do not bargain at all, not even with broomsticks. The suitor just goes in, bringing bags of cowries until his in-laws tell him to stop. It is a bad custom because it always leads to a quarrel. The world is large, said Okonkwo. I have even heard that in some tribes, a man's children belong to his wife and her family. That cannot be, said Maki. You might as well say that a woman lies on top of the man when they are making children. It is like the story of white men, who, they say, are white like this piece of chalk, said Obiorika. He held up a piece of chalk, which every man kept in his obi, and with which his guests drew lines on the floor before they ate kola nuts. And these white men, they say, have no toes. And have you never seen them? Asked Maki. Have you? Asked Obiorika. One of them passes here frequently, said Maki. His name is Amadi. Those who knew Amadi laughed. He was a leper, and the polite name for leprosy was